Welcome to the Purposeful MD Podcast. As a physician, you've sacrificed so much of your life for other people, your patients, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. What would it feel like to spend time doing what you enjoy and to live without guilt? I'm your host, Dr. Laura Suttin, a family physician, certified coach, and business owner. If you're a medical professional on a journey towards your most purposeful life, a life with more time and energy, and ultimately more joy, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Purposeful MD Podcast. So excited to have my guest today. I'll introduce him here shortly, Alan Utley. He's a good friend of mine and a colleague of mine in many different walks of life. So Alan, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, Laura.
Yeah, you too. We've had some roadblocks to get here, but we're here now. We've had some challenges with scheduling, but we're here now. So let me just read your bio. So Alan Derek Utley is a certified speaker and coach with 25 years of senior HR experience, dedicated to detoxifying workplace cultures and creating spaces that spark growth where people actually want to work. That is an amazing concept. I love it. He developed the revolutionary Fanatical Grace framework, helping organizations build environments where humanity flourishes and both people and profits thrive. Love it. Alan has helped numerous organizations across various industries slash turnover rates and boost engagement scores, proving that compassionate leadership drives exceptional results. Yes. Based in San Antonio, Alan and his wife, Melissa, are the proud parents of two incredibly gorgeous and hilarious little ones and dedicated Disney enthusiasts. Alan also serves as a leadership committee chair for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Visionaries of the Year campaign, bringing his passion for positive change to philanthropic efforts. Love that too. We could talk about all of that for hours and hours and days. So
I just love all the positive affirmations in my bio. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I want to say you added the gorgeous part for the children. And
thank you. I
appreciate that.
Well, they are. We're going to drop a link to your TikTok. And so Great. Folks need to follow you and see all the incredibly cute things that your children do.
Thank you. Yes, I actually have the two TikToks. I've got one as a parent and one as a coach. So let's get them both out there.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I love it. All right. So Alan, tell us how your journey brought you to where you are.
Wow. Well, I've been working. Thank you for that question. It's a big one. I've been working in human resources for 25 years. And what I always like to say, it was sort of an accidental profession in the very beginning, as it was for many. But I did it because at the time in college, my girlfriend's father, when we were visiting home one day, he recommended it. We were sitting in the kitchen and I was talking about the sales career I wanted. And he said, you should check out HR. And wanting to please, which is kind of my brand, I said, sure, why not? So I got my HR degree. He eventually became my father-in-law and still is to this day. So that was a good call on my part. But that's why I started the HR career and discovered in the very beginning that I did not like it. And it's because I didn't find my groove yet. I hadn't figured out what part of HR was actually a good fit for me. But then I did. I found recruiting first, which was sales, by the way. Because you're connecting a person to a job and a job to a person. So I thought that was a perfect marriage of the two. But then I discovered so recruiting was sort of my first love, but my soulmate, my passion from a career perspective is training and development, specifically leadership development. So I started pursuing that path while maintaining my generalist knowledge and abilities, and through my 25 years, have grown into various senior leadership roles, worked across a bunch of different industries, from aerospace to manufacturing to hospitality to financial services. And I share that because as an HR professional, you really can't go to any industry. You just got to learn the business. But there's a fundamental aspect to it that is always the same. There's labor laws, but then there's also how to work with people, how to lead people, how to create cultures. And that leads me to where I am today. So I look at myself as a culture crafter. That's sort of the name that I've given myself. And wherever I go, my focus is try to create a workplace where people want to show up to work. And I do that today, as a practicing HR leader, I work for a company today, day to day. It keeps me fresh. But then on top of that, I bring my experience. So I work outside. So I work inside out, but then also outside in. So I come alongside leaders. I coach them. I provide training. I do workshops with teams, and it's all around leadership. And it's really these days centered around my Fanatical Grace framework, which I know you want to get into, but it's the framework that I discovered, I've created, and I'm bringing to organizations today. And the response has been tremendous. And I'm so excited to get it out there and to talk more about it with you today.
That's so cool. So I think you might be the first guest I've had that started their career because they wanted to impress their partner's dad. I think that's so cool. It worked, right?
I advise it. It worked out. He was a smart person. He knew what he was talking about.
It worked, yeah. And I, so you and I connected a couple years ago through LLS, and I definitely want to rep that for a little bit too.
Yeah.
But just, when you and I connected and realized we were both in the coaching world, and I felt this resonance from you where you saw possibilities for what could be in the workplace. And so now are seeking to change it. And just your messages on social media and what I hear you speak are just incredible. And so really grateful to get to absorb that from you and to know you personally. And I think a lot of our listeners as physicians kind of feel, and we were talking about this before we hit record, kind of feel like they're maybe stuck in an environment that they don't want to be in, or can't necessarily impact some of the things that are going on around them, whether or not they're practice owners or whether or not they're part of an organization, healthcare system. There's a lot of things outside the physician's control. And I think when I work with physicians and coach them, I always try to help them to see how they really do influence, whether or not they have an official title, how they really can influence the environment around them. How can they have a bigger impact on their staff or on the patients? And so, yeah, help us with that. Help us if there's a physician or a healthcare professional that's kind of in this space where they are seeing maybe they themselves don't want to come to work and it's clear. Maybe they are noticing people that they work with that just kind of seem unhappy. There's just this general kind of malaise in the workplace. How do we shift that?
That's it's a big question, another big question. And it is something I've been thinking a lot about. And I think, not to oversimplify it, but I think what I've come down to, I used to always just say, everyone should just show up to work and be nice. And I can't help but say that because that's just how I'm wired, and positivity, optimism, being nice, and all those things. But I realized that being nice isn't enough, because there are the realities of whether we're running a profit business or a nonprofit business. There are things we have to achieve in order to stay in business, in order to accomplish the mission of the organization. And so what that leads to is this, I think the current environment that a lot of organizations experience or teams experience is, in order to get results, they think the quickest way to get to results is either through leveraging power, seeking perfection, or using a whole lot of pressure. And what the realities are, while we think that works, the realities are pressure creates leaks, power eventually runs out. And when we're seeking perfection, people either get they either get, what's the phrase? They get blinded by the shine of perfection, or they reveal themselves as pretending. And that's inauthentic, and people quickly realize you don't know what you're doing, and you're not performing. And what we do when we do those things, we get further and further away from our humanity. We get further and further away from what really truly makes us great as human beings, and we lose the ability to bring our best selves to the work. So I think that's the current reality that we're in. And I describe that in my Fanatical Grace framework with the current state being a state of fixing, a state of forcing, and a state of fear. So you said, how do we shift? Well, the shift that's built into my framework is moving from fixing, forcing, and fear to a more healthy state of forging, flowing, and freedom. And freedom may seem counterintuitive because we actually hire people to do a job and you need to give them instructions. But within my framework, the idea of freedom is really letting Laura show up to work and discovering what Laura's abilities are, letting Laura bring innovation, letting Laura bring ideas and experiment and try and then discover and transform. So when you move from that state to this new state, that's where transformation happens. And that's when we let humanity in the front door. We give it a corner office and we watch it thrive. And that's how teams thrive. And I know that sounds so perfect and utopian, but I believe it because I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I've worked in it for 25 years. And this is how I coach people. And I see the transformations every day.
Yeah. So you see it and you know it's possible and you know it exists. And it's, it's so interesting to me. Of course, I've been in healthcare for however many years. And
Just a
you
few.
would think that humanity, or you'd think that healthcare would be the one environment where humanity thrives. And it's so often not the case. And you've mentioned pressure and perfection. And I mean, our healthcare professionals are feeling that all the time. I don't know if it's chicken or the egg, which came first as far as the perfectionism or going into healthcare, but it's really, really pervasive. And it's pervasive in other professions too. You think about law or education or finance. I mean, there's this such a pressure to do everything perfectly and never screw up, and you get punished for making a mistake. And I'm sure you've seen this in your HR experience as well. And that's fear of being punished. You mentioned fear can really just, it stifles innovation. And that's exactly what you were saying. I've seen situations where I was in a healthcare environment once where one of our staff members was so afraid of getting written up for staying 15 minutes past 5 p.m. to help a patient that was still in the building, help her get her transportation home and everything, that she kind of like shuffled the patient out. Like, she was doing what she needed to do to protect herself because she was fearful of getting in trouble for taking that overtime. When the right thing to do from a top-down perspective would have been to see this patient needs us. It might mean 15 minutes of overtime for the staff. How do we make this work? So I mean, I really feel like I resonate with everything you're saying, and it's so common in the healthcare space. And so I love that framework of moving from the fear and the pressure. And I'm blanking on all the words you said, but the freedom and yes, tell us again what you said.
Freedom. Yeah. So the new reality, the new world of work, as I see it for cultures, is a state of forging, which is not fixing. If forging is taking the raw talent and making it into something great based on based on you and what your natural abilities are, not trying to be something else, not trying to create a clone of another leader, because all you get are carbon copies that are faded, right? So that's the forging. And then there's the second one, which is flowing. So that's, and let me give you an example that's actually a parenting example, but I think everyone will probably resonate with it. So a few months back, I needed to take my child in for a flu shot, right? And his reaction was to throw himself on the floor, kick his legs, threw himself into the beanbag, and he said, I'm not going. My instinct, every parent's instinct, is to pick him up and push him out the door. So we're going. And that's the current reality of forcing, where we're going to go get the flu shot. And it could have taken us a long time to get him out the door. He could have been kicking and screaming, causing a commotion. So as a parent, I fought through my every instinct to push and chose instead to just sit there. And I let him breathe it out. And I breathed it out. I breathed through it. It took maybe 10 minutes, but once he was done kicking and screaming, got himself up, went to his mom. His mom patted him on the back, picked him up. I took his hand, and we calmly walked out the door. And he got his flu shot like a champ. So that's the flow, right? Just allow things to naturally evolve rather than push. It's in a work setting, it's the leaders who say, I need this by 5 o'clock on Friday. And then on Wednesday, they say, how are you doing on that report? Like, why are you like, you've already given me the deadline. Give me
Mhm.
the space. Give me that you give, like, let me operate. Let me work. Why this extra pressure? Why this extra force?
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. You know, does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gave him the space, but also the
Yeah.
safety. Like he felt safe with you.
Yeah.
And that's something that is missing in a lot of healthcare environments, a lot of workplace environments today is that safety. That
Psychological safety.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. And I love that you said space, because my sort of tagline is create space, spark growth.
Hmm.
When you create space for, either it is to just be not okay in that moment, space, create space to cry, create space to be mad, but there's also create space for innovation, there's create space for belonging, there's create, like, you could put anything at the end of that sentence and it applies. And when we intentionally as leaders challenge the way we're doing things today and create space for something new and something different, then results start to flow. When we lift ourselves, our teams then lift. When we lift our team, they lift each other, and then you lift your business. That's what happens
Yes.
by
The
creating
rising
space.
tide. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And another thing that I hear from you a lot and feel from you, and we are chatting about this a bit before as well, is that vulnerability. So the leader doesn't pretend that he or she is perfect at
Yeah,
everything, doesn't pretend that they know everything.
yeah,
And the willingness to say it's okay to make a mistake. And I've made mistakes too. Here's how I've screwed up, and here's how I'm going to support you if and when those things happen. And I think that's something that we could use a ton more of in any leadership environment, is leaders that show up and
yeah.
admit that they're not perfect and they don't know.
Totally agree. And this is a trap that I see a lot of new leaders fall into. But you know what? I see leaders who've been doing it for 20 years fall into that trap as well.
Yeah.
But if you think about the new leader, let's take someone who's been promoted into their very first role, very first leadership role. They got promoted because they were a technical expert, right? They were an individual contributor, really, really good. And somebody said, okay, now you teach other people how to do that. Now you manage everyone. So first of all, we've set them up for failure because we didn't actually teach them how to lead or manage, which is just what everybody does.
Yeah.
They know how to do their job, but not how to do the job of management. Then they get into this role and they have this idea of, okay, I'm the boss now.
Hmm.
And that there's a little bit of token power that's handed to them, and they start to use it because they think that they have to know all, be all, do all. Nobody teaches them you don't. You're now responsible for learning a new set of skills and helping your team, and it's okay if you make mistakes. So we want you to be honest about what you don't know, because when they start pretending and they start faking it, I'm okay with fake it till you make it in some aspects of life, but in this aspect, you got to be honest about what you know and what you don't know, because when you start pretending, then you start lying, and then you start hiding, and then you start making errors, and things get worse and worse and worse. So let's stop pretending. Let's just be honest about what we know and don't know, but we have to make it safe to do that.
Yes.
And that is the tone that the entire culture needs to create. It needs to be a learning environment.
Yeah. 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 I see that in physician leaders too. And I see it and I experienced it for myself when I was moving from being a full-time practicing physician to having a leadership role. And I coach my physician leaders on this as well, is that the skills that made me a good physician are almost counter to the skills that are going to help me in my leadership. It's like you said,
Yeah.
individual contributor. It's very much like, okay, what am I going to do to impact my patients in my own microcosm? But as a leader of physicians, I had to step out of that. I had to step out of that, like, I know everything mindset and I'm in
Yeah.
control, and be much more vulnerable, much more willing to accept help. I mean, that's something that a lot of physicians and other professionals just, we're taught, do everything ourselves, don't accept help.
Yeah.
And the experiences that you have to, otherwise we're going to burn ourselves out. And so the other thing that I see is unclear expectations a lot, and
Mhm.
unclear guardrails and authority. Physician leaders will step into this role and they're like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to manage this clinic, but what does that mean? And how do I
Yeah.
operate with maybe an operational leader who's also in that role? And it's like an arranged marriage. We've never worked together before, but now we have to co-parent and co-lead this team.
Yeah.
And what are the expectations? How do we communicate with each other? It's a recipe for disaster.
I couldn't begin to know how to operate a clinic. That sounds really, really hard. But I do know that, yeah, you have to be honest about, I don't know what I'm doing. In fact, I think what new leaders need to be good at is knowing how to ask questions and
Yes.
how to use the resources.
Yes.
And even today, I've been doing this job for 25 years. Every day I discover something I don't know.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with asking. I'm okay with saying, I don't actually know the answer to that.
Mhm.
But you know what? Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And I know who to call, who to start with. And when
Yes.
my team calls me, I'm okay with admitting that. If you called them and asked them, they would say, absolutely. He admits when he doesn't know something. And we still like him. We still think he's our leader.
Yeah.
So to be a leader, you don't have to know everything. You
Right.
just got to know how to figure stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned that the hard way by feeling like I had to know everything. And I remember certain situations where I wasn't actively making things up, but I was telling what I thought was the full picture, and it wasn't the full picture because I just didn't know. And so, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
And by the way, I'm making myself sound perfect here, and I'm not. I I make mistakes every day, and I'm willing to admit when I make those mistakes. And
Yeah.
the first time I actually even learned this whole concept of it's okay to admit when you're not wrong, when you don't know, was my very first job as a leader. I had a specialist, an employee relations specialist on my team who worked at another operation, and she called me once and asked me a question that I probably should have known the answer to. And the first thing out of my mouth, because I can't filter myself sometimes, was, I don't know. A week later, she came back to me and said, I wanted to tell you that I really admired the fact that you admitted that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't pretend, you didn't act like, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's good. And I filed that away and I've kept it with me ever since.
Yeah.
So you learn from your team all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example for physicians who if they're mentoring others, which all physicians are, mentoring their staff, mentoring people around them, to celebrate when somebody says, I'm not sure, I don't know, but like you said, let's figure it out. I'm going to go find out, type of thing. That's again, when we were in our training, if we didn't know the answer to a question, it was like the kiss of death when we were with our attendings. And so we still carry that with us.
Yeah.
And so just to hear that reinforced of, it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. And
it's okay not to know. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another big one.
And by the way, you just said celebrations. So that's another one. Create space for celebration.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that's something that we don't do enough. That's something that I actively work on with my clients when they have a win, is like, what are you going to do to celebrate? And they're like, well, it's not that big of a deal, Like, yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Listen, Laura, I need a cheerleader at the end of every finish line every day. I'm all about celebration. I don't get enough. I need more celebrations in my life.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this assessment, and you mentioned that you wanted to share it and wanted to give folks an example of what this would look like. So
are you up for it?
I am up for it. So tell us about it a little bit, enough so that people can find it, because I know people are going to be curious.
Absolutely. So let me tell you where you can find it first. And then if you're interested, you can go get it. So go to my website, which is mycoachnextdoor.com. You can go there, learn more about me, learn more about Fanatical Grace. You can also contact me, book me for a speaking engagement, a team workshop, or connect coach. But there you'll find the free assessment. It's a few different places you can click on it and download it. So what is the assessment? So it's the Fix, Force, Fear assessment. And it's based on my Fanatical Grace framework. And in order to shift your culture, shift your team, shift your style, you need to know where you are today. So this self-assessment will tell you what your current style is. Now, no one's going to admit to being a bad leader. And that's not what this assessment is measuring. Because if you think about the origin of fixing and forcing and fear, they come from a good place, right? At some point in your career, you were taught to seek perfection because that's how you get things done. And there is value in that. Like, if you're going to do work, do quality work. right? So that's where that comes from. And then forcing things is about, you know what, we're going to get this done. We're on a deadline. We're going to work hard. We're going to achieve. So that comes from a place of achievement, good intentions. I have a hard time with finding the good intentions behind fear, but maybe I'll keep working on that. But I think it's really more about control. So it's not about fear, it's about control. And if you're a high achiever and you want to be good at your job and do quality work, you're going to try to control those outcomes. And in some cases that works. But what happens is if you, like with anything, if you overdo it, overuse it, become a one-trick pony, it tends to become something negative. It tends to hinder performance, hinder outcomes, hinder relationships. So it's good to know where are our tendencies. And that's what the fixed force sphere style assessment will measure. So I thought it could be fun to just show a few examples of some of the questions and see what your thoughts would be.
Sure.
And we'll get kind of an idea of where you might be. And then what happens is once you know, then it leads you to the Fanatical Grace blueprint, which walks you through the framework and shows you here is a plan you can create for yourself. Now you won't get the plan. You have to contact me if you want the plan, but the assessment is available online. Okay, so here's my first question for you, Dr. Suttin. So tell me how you would rate this question. So this is a statement, actually. So you're going to rate it on a scale from 1 to 4. Okay, so 1 is something you would never do. Okay, 2, you would rarely do this, maybe on bad days. 3, sometimes, and now you're feeling attacked. And 4, you would often do this, and you're wondering how I got access to your diary. Okay. So that's 1 through 4. So question number 1, or statement number 1, I have often practiced saying, I'm not a micromanager in the mirror. I'm not a micromanager.
Yeah, that's not something that
No.
that's not something that I do.
Okay, great. So that's a 1. So you never. Okay, great. So I'll give you a 1 for that. My team's mistakes often feel like a personal betrayal. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
2.
2. Okay. Rarely. I consider good enough to be fighting words.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. What do you think I mean? What do you? So let's say somebody completes a task and you look at it and you think, this is just not good. And they say, well, it's good enough. Let's go. Let's move on.
Good enough to be fighting words. I would say a 3.
3. Okay. All right. And then here's the last one from this first one. So let me show you how I would do it is your catchphrase.
Oh, yeah. I do that a lot.
Okay.
So that's a 4.
So that's a 4. Okay. All right. So that's in the fixed category.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an, and hopefully you're seeing that these questions are built in a way it's kind of accessible. It's kind of approachable. It's kind of just a fun, silly way to look at things, but it hopefully opens up a dialogue and opens up some self-reflection. So in the force category, let me give you a few examples. Hey, just checking in is your love language.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one.
We got one as a 4. Yeah.
That's a 4. Okay. No pressure, but is your favorite way to start a conversation?
2.
2. Okay. I measure your commitment by how quickly you respond to my emails on the weekend.
Oh, no.
Okay.
That's a 1 because I got to have those boundaries.
You got some boundaries. All right. And let's say your calendar needs a few more hours in everyone else's day.
No, that's a 1.
No, that's 1. Okay. All right. So that was the force category. That was a sampling of some of those statements. And now let's look at the fear category, or sort of the control category. Okay. It's also the power category. There's a few different words you could use to describe it. Okay. So I trust my team to do exactly what I tell them to do.
I feel like that's a trick question.
Okay, say more.
So the trust, I feel like, is a good thing, but then the doing exactly what I say, that seems like a twist. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's intentional. So I trust my team to do what I tell them to do, or I trust my team to do it the way I would do it, maybe is a better way to put that.
I mean, I trust my team, but they might do it a different way than I would.
Okay.
And that causes me a little bit of anxiety and fear.
Mm.
So how would you rate that?
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, it's really more about not the fear you feel, but the fear you impart.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you are not forcing them to do it your way, if you're, even though it's creating some anxiety for you, and that's natural, you're allowing them. So I would probably give that a lower score.
Okay. So 2.
All right. So my approval process has an approval process.
No,
Okay.
that's a 1.
All right. And then let's do this other one. My door is always open during pre-scheduled office hours.
Um, I mean, I feel like my door is always open. I don't so I can sense the irony in it as you're because you're
Uh-huh.
laughing about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll be honest. I'll give myself a 3 on this one. I'm okay with an open door, but I do like control over my schedule.
I do. Yeah, I would give myself a
Yeah.
3. Oh.
All right. Here's the last one. Innovation is great. I'm all for innovation as long as nothing changes.
That would be a 3 also.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not going to give you a full score because we didn't do the whole thing, but
Yeah.
hopefully that gives you a sense for the kind of discussion that creates and the reflection that
Yeah.
creates. And it does, there's a scoring guide in there that for each of those 3 categories gives you a high, medium, and a mild
Hmm.
answer. And then it tells you what to do with that, what to
Yeah.
do next. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's, I'm on that journey just like you of
Hmm.
as a business owner, there's this aspect of like, well, I want things done a certain way. And even if with my kids, so my daughter's uh, just graduated high school, and I've noticed this with her about, I mean, I want to impart all this knowledge to her and help her to do things a certain way, and yet she's a very different person and she's going to do things her own way. And so that letting go process, as you as a parent of 2 small kids,
Yeah.
you're seeing this too as your kids become more independent. And so it's definitely a learning experience,
Yeah, absolutely.
that sometimes that trust and that relationship can be broken down when we try to apply pressure. And then if we just, like your example with your son, just kind of let go. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw Alan's reaction was just to like this physical giving, yeah, letting go, moving backwards, giving of space.
It was
Um,
hard. I had to
and
do it with
that,
intention. It was difficult.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it was, now it's going to be easier for you because you practiced it,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Sure. Yeah, good habits create a while to create, right? Because we have these
Yes.
bad habits that we have. And I've learned more about myself since becoming a parent than I ever knew
Yeah.
about what my hot buttons are and my pet peeves and where I need to do more work. And you know what? I have a lot of work to do in the space of grace, even though I'm the grace guy and I talk about grace.
Hmm.
It is a challenge every day. And there's an aspect to it I think that's important that we talk about, which is fanatical grace is not creating a space where there's no accountability. It's not about creating a space where there's no results. Because back to my starting point, which was I always thought being nice was the way to go, but I realized that when you're nice and someone calls you nice, they're kind of calling you a pushover.
Hmm.
And we're not running country clubs here, right? Unless you actually are, which is actually just a business, but also
Hmm.
a business. But I guess the point I'm making is when I hire you to work for me, I still have to start with here's the job I hired you for.
Hmm.
Here are my expectations. Here are the results that I need.
Hmm.
And then everything happens in the middle is me leveraging your talents, your
Hmm.
strengths, your abilities, but also course correcting. Like I love what you're doing there, but the results aren't what we need. So let me coach you through finding a better way. I have some ideas. I could just tell you how to do it. And sometimes I need to,
Hmm.
especially if I need a result now. And maybe that's called micromanagement, but that's also about getting results. Sometimes micromanagement gets a bad rap, but it's
Hmm.
only because we overuse it. There are times that you need to, I think, We could do a whole session on that,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. But my job as a leader is to course correct you and keep you inspired and keep you motivated and help you find the best way to do your work and get your best results through you. And I still have to hold you accountable to those results at the end.
Yeah.
So grace isn't about that. Grace is about transforming us into something better to get greater results, greater, more extraordinary outcomes than we ever could have imagined, because we're letting humanity in.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's a really great distinction for people who feel like, well, I can't let people walk all over me. And the
Yeah.
the differentiation that comes up in my mind is the difference between nice and kind. You know,
I love
it's
that.
not the kind thing to do to let somebody completely go off the rails. And the kind thing to do is to course correct them and to help them become the best version of themselves, like you said. And so I that kind of my example before about setting expectations for a new leader, the kind thing is to sit somebody down and say, here's exactly what is expected in this role. Here are your guardrails, here are the boundaries, and I'm going to be there to catch you if you go off the rails, and I'm going to be there, and I'm here to help you. And it's not about just letting you kind of make it up as you go, but helping you to see when you might need to go a different direction, because we do have to get the results. And so I really love that call out. And I think that's so important and something that we often forget. And with ourselves too. How do we set boundaries within ourselves, and how do we
Yes.
show kindness for ourselves? And so that's
Yes.
something, yeah.
That's absolutely such a key aspect to this, because there's about grace for this, the grace that you demonstrate to others, but then
Hmm.
also you got to give yourself grace as well.
Yes.
When you don't get the results you wanted, when you don't achieve a deadline, even though you did everything you could and there were external factors that you couldn't
Hmm.
control, breathe through it.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
gonna be okay.
Yes.
And you're gonna get there. Maybe not on the original timeline, maybe not exactly how you envisioned it, but you're gonna get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
That's my pep talk for the day.
All right. So you and I were brought together through
Yeah.
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We've got to give some airtime to this
Yes.
incredible organization. So yes, tell us. I mean, of course I know all about it, but I want to make sure our listeners know
Yeah.
what what LLS is and how they can get involved in their own communities.
Absolutely. So LLS is this incredible organization that was founded by a family who lost a child to leukemia. You'll have to fact check me on that. I know it was leukemia, lymphoma, something. So um, and they put this organization together so that no family would ever have to lose a child again. And today, all these years later, we have these incredible campaigns every year that fund what they're trying to do, and they're focusing on advocacy work, they're focusing on research, and they're also focusing on patient support. Those are sort of the three pillars that LLS raises money for. And you and I got involved as part of the Visionaries of the Year campaign, both as committee members. We were chairs together,
Hmm.
which was an honor to be a chair with you. And there's also Student Visionaries of the Year, which I think is great. And I wish I had been involved in that when I was a child. I mean, what else was I doing? I was in theater and choir and having fun. And there are students who are raising money. And I think that's such a great thing for students to get involved in. And there's also the Light the Night, which a lot of people are familiar with. So if people want to get involved, I would say look up your local chapter in San Antonio, contact me, contact Laura,
Hmm.
and we can absolutely get you involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. LLS I've been involved with them for 5 years. I'm on the local board of trustees now. And it's so, it's so fun. It's fun to work with amazing people like
It
you
is.
and the team, and just to raise money for an incredible cause, incredible organization, like you said. And lls.org is the website. I encourage people to look there and either donate their time or whatever they can give, or get involved in a campaign and help with fundraising, because it's changed my life. So
Yeah, me
yeah.
too. And I got involved simply because someone contacted me and said, "Do you want to be a part of this?" And someone I care about and trust. And I said, "Absolutely." And I did it because of my kids, because
Yeah.
I want to be a good role model for them, but I also want to create a world where there's no cancer. it's a big ask, but a worthy one. So that's why I do it. And I stay involved because of all the incredible people that I get to meet and interact with, and knowing that every dollar we raise is helping someone somewhere.
Yes. Love it. Thank you so much for being on, Alan. Like you, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and we are lucky enough that we get to hang out occasionally and do cool LLS things together, and just really grateful to have you on today.
Thank you, Laura. This was incredible. I was so honored to be asked. And yes, let's get together and have coffee. We'll continue the conversation.
Sounds good. And we'll hit
Thanks for
record
having
and play it for everybody.
Perfect.
And we'll put all the links in the show notes to how folks can find you and reach out to you. And so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
While I am a physician, the information presented in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with your own healthcare provider before making any significant changes to your lifestyle or routine. By listening to this podcast, you are not creating a physician-patient relationship. Thank you for listening to the Purposeful MD Podcast. If you like what you hear, please rate and review the show. Please also visit my website, www.thepurposefulmd.com, for free downloads or to discuss working with me as your coach.